Battle through the heavens. Mu Qingluan by the side raised her ears when she heard Feng Zunzhe's words. She was also very curious about Xiao Yan's background. Although Feng Zunzhe had many friends, she didn't know of a friend whom he would be so concerned about after all these years. Xiao Yan tightly clenched his fist. A fierce glint vaguely appeared in his eyes. A moment later he suppressed the fluctuating emotion within his heart. He inhaled a deep breath of air as he slowly said, "Old Feng should also be aware of the matter about teacher back then, right? He was not with me when something happened to him. By the time I discovered something amiss, Han Feng had already announced to the public that the old fellow had suffered a backlash when he was refining a pill and ended up self-destructing. I will naturally never believe such words, and I interrogated Han Feng quite a number of times about this. However, this fellow is extremely cunning, and I failed to learn anything through my questioning. After this continued a couple of times, he also disappeared from the Central Plains region. Only at that time did I vaguely sense the disappearance of that old fellow was related to him. However, I am unable to find any information about Han Feng after searching the Central Plains for so many years." Feng Zunzhe's eyes stared intently at Xiao Yan as he spoke with a deep voice. Xiao Yan sighed softly and whispered, "Teacher was indeed harmed by Han Feng back then." Boom! Feng Zunzhe's expression almost instantly turned dark, chilly when Xiao Yan's words sounded. A dense killing intent surged out of his body, causing the temperature of this place to significantly drop. Mu Qingluan cowered her neck when she saw Feng Zunzhe this furious. Feng Zunzhe was usually light and carefree. Seldom would he lose himself in such a manner. Yao Chen. Could he be that life-and-death good friend of teacher, the pavilion chief of the Falling Star Pavilion that has never shown himself, Yao Chen, Yao Zunzhe? Mu Qingluan muttered this name in her mouth before she immediately seemed to have recalled something. Her pretty eyes were stunned as she looked at Xiao Yan and involuntarily cried out. Pavilion Chief. Xiao Yan was startled when he heard this. He was unaware that Yao Lao had been Pavilion Chief. Xiao Yan slightly nodded. It was unexpected that teacher would be the Pavilion Chief of the Falling Star Pavilion in name. In that case, was he not considered a member of the Falling Star Pavilion? Let's not talk about this for now. Once I return, I will issue a wanted order. I think that the bastard Han Feng is still alive. If he lands in my hands, I will definitely let him suffer a fate where he cannot even beg to die. Feng Zunzhe spoke in a dark manner. It seemed that Han Feng had completely infuriated him. If it's a wanted order, there is probably no need. Xiao Yan shook his head. He flicked his finger and a jade bottle appeared from his storage ring. His finger rubbed over the mouth of the bottle as an illusionary spiritual body was hurriedly released. Xiao Yan, just what will it take for you to let me off? Han Feng's soul roared in a flustered and exasperated manner after escaping the bottle. However, his roar had yet to finish when it came to a sudden halt. A frightened expression that was difficult to hide appeared on his face. Han Feng. Feng Zunzhe's eyes were dense as he looked at Han Feng's soul in front of him. Two words that contained a chilly killing intent were slowly emitted between his teeth. Feng Zunzhe. Han Feng's eyes were dull as he looked at Feng Zunzhe in front of him. An instant later he immediately let out a shocked scream and hurriedly turned to flee. Han Feng finally became afraid as he looked at Feng Zunzhe's eyes, which contained a dense killing intent, that caused one to freeze over. He was also a little afraid of Feng Zunzhe in his heart. Immediately, he hurriedly cried out, "Don't kill me. This has nothing to do with me. I was also forced by those people from the Hall of Souls." Hall of Souls. Feng Zunzhe's expression changed when he heard this name. Old Feng, the Hall of Souls seemed to be after teacher's spiritual strength. Now, teacher has already fallen into their hands. Xiao Yan spoke in a low and deep voice. It is really related to those bastards. Feng Zunzhe grit his teeth as he yelled. During his investigations over these years, he had also vaguely discovered something about the Hall of Souls. However, he had not expected the ones who had struck at Yao Chen back to be these fellows, who lingered around without disappearing. This bastard cannot be allowed to live. A killing intent flashed across his eyes as he stared at Han Feng icily. Even if it was the Hall of Souls who wanted to strike Yao Chen, it would be extremely difficult for them to do so. After all, Yao Chen had a great number of friends. Quite a number of experts from the older generation back then had quite a good relationship with him. With his identity as an alchemist, his ability to summon help with just a wave of his hand was something that would cause even the Hall of Souls would have to think twice despite their strength. However, Yao Chen had eventually disappeared in an abrupt manner. Clearly, this was because a traitor had betrayed him, resulting in him lacking the time to gather helpers. Who else could this traitor be other than this bastard Han Feng? Old Feng, wait. We still need Han Feng to guide us in order for us to find the branch hall where Yao Lao is being imprisoned. It is not the right time to kill him. Xiao Yan hurriedly spoke when he saw this situation. Ancient mansion. Xiao Yan was stunned when he heard this. It is already an extremely old story. That mansion was passed down from the ancient times. Back then, it attracted over half of the experts of the Central Plains who were at the Dou Zone class and above. However, the treasures inside were indeed shocking. The Qi method you practice now was obtained by Yao Chen from that place back then. Feng Zunzhe sighed. Xiao Yan was once again startled. He involuntarily inhaled a gentle breath. Flame mantra was actually something that was obtained from that ancient mansion. Where is that old fellow being imprisoned right now? Feng Zunzhe glanced icily at Han Feng before demanding. The western regions of the Central Plains underworld city. There is a branch hall of the Hall of Souls there. Yao Chen is being imprisoned there. Han Feng hesitated for a moment before speaking. Underworld City Huh. It is unexpected that there is a branch hall of the Hall of Souls there. Feng Zunzhe frowned and asked once again. How many honorable elders, Dou Zun, are there in that branch? 1. Han Feng's eyes quietly flickered as he softly replied. Do you really think that this venerable self, Dou Zun, does not have any understanding of the Hall of Souls? Feng Zunzhe laughed coldly when he heard this. A branch of the Hall of Souls would at least have a chief and a deputy regardless of how low level it is. They are at the honorable elder level. Moreover, that place is one where someone as important as Yao Chen is imprisoned. One honorable elder. Looks like your evil thoughts have yet to be extinguished. Han Feng's body trembled slightly when he heard Feng Zunzhe's words. The expression of Xiao Yan by the side had also slowly turned dark and solemn. Damn it. He had nearly been tricked by this bastard. 2 honorable elders, this was not a matter of summing 2 up. A lineup consisting of 2 Dou Zun class experts would have the ability to even wash some top-tier factions in the Central Plains in blood. If he had not found Feng Zunzhe and ended up foolishly leading people to Underworld City, it was likely that he would have fallen into their hands. Store him away. He might be useful in the future. Feng Zunzhe's eyes were dense as he glanced at Han Feng, who was involuntarily trembling. However, he simply laughed and tossed Han Feng to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan nodded his head with a cold smile after receiving Han Feng's soul. He stuffed him back into the jade bottle. With a random flick of his finger, a wisp of invisible flame rushed in, and a sharp miserable cry once again sounded. Xiao Yan's finger rubbed the mouth of the bottle and isolated the miserable cry. After which, he returned it to his storage ring. He would wait and see if this fellow could survive being burned by the fallen heart flame. When dealing with such scum, he would not allow them to peacefully die. Old Feng, what should we do now? Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment and asked. We cannot be reckless when dealing with this matter, and we cannot allow any information to be leaked. Otherwise, once the Hall of Souls transfers Yao Chen, it will be even more difficult for us to find him. You should wait quietly for some time. I will dispatch someone to head to Underworld City to investigate. If we delay for too long, Xiao Yan spoke in a somewhat worried manner. Relax, there are not many people who possess pill refining skills that can be compared with Yao Chen in the Central Plains. The Hall of Souls will not easily hurt him. Feng Zunzhe spoke in a calm manner. Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment after hearing this, but he could only nod his head. The Hall of Souls was too powerful. They really could not afford to alert them. I will return to the Falling Star Pavilion next. After which, I will begin investigating the Hall of Souls. What about you? Feng Zunzhe's eyes looked at Xiao Yan as he asked. Xiao Yan mused for a moment before saying, I wish to head to the middle regions of the Central Plains region. There is still a year or so left until the Pill Tower's pill gathering. I wish to participate. The pill gathering, huh? Feng Zunzhe was startled when he heard this. He immediately smiled and said, this is also not bad. Back then, that old fellow Yao Chen managed to get a champion spot in that pill gathering. He was really glorious. Being his disciple, you must naturally not diminish his reputation. Moreover, according to what I know, the top 10 in this pill gathering appear to be able to obtain the right to subdue the 3,000 burning flames. Perhaps this possesses a fatal attraction to you. Feng Zunzhe did not say anything more after seeing that Xiao Yan had made up his mind. He mused for a moment before taking out an old piece of jade from his storage ring. After which, he handed it to Xiao Yan and said, take this star jade. In the future, I will be able to rely on this thing to find you. Moreover, if you meet with any trouble that you cannot resolve, you can shatter it. I will be able to sense it. Xiao Yan tilted his head. He solemnly received the old piece of jade and placed it in his storage ring. After which, he cupped his hands to Feng Zunzhe and said with a deep voice, thank you old Feng. Xiao Yan quietly nodded. Yao Lao had spent an immense amount of effort on him, something that Xiao Yan was naturally aware of. Hence, his heart treated Yao Lao like his father. During these years, he had personally put in a ton of effort in order to obtain the strength to rescue Yao Lao. Once I return to the Falling Star Pavilion, I will try my best to inquire about the factions within Underworld City. During this period of time, I will quietly make contact with some people who were friends with Yao Chen back then. If I am able to gather them, snatching Yao Chen back should not be difficult. Feng Zunzhe spoke. Although the strength of the Falling Star Pavilion was quite strong, there was still quite a gap when compared with a great being like the Hall of Souls. Moreover, the Hall of Souls was mysterious and unfathomable. No one knew its exact strength. If one was not prepared, it was likely that one would not only fail to rescue Yao Chen but also end up losing the entire Falling Star Pavilion in the process. Xiao Yan nodded his head. His heart clearly understood just how frightening the Hall of Souls was. Naturally, he knew that he could not be reckless when it came to such matters. If they made a wrong move, it was likely that they would lose everything in the process. Alright, we are pressed for time and I shall not stay any longer. Remember, you should be more careful when you are alone in the future. According to my guess, it is likely that Feng Qing Heir will not give up this ancient phoenix essence blood so easily. You should pay a little more attention. After all, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe is not full of some nice characters. If you meet with any trouble that you cannot resolve, you should shatter the star jade. Feng Zunzhe said. Xiao Yan tilted his head in acknowledgement. After which, he cupped his hands to Feng Zunzhe. He lifted his chin to Lin Yan by the side. Their bodies moved, and they leaped off the back of the enormous eagle and swiftly fell to the ground. Xiao Yan and Lin Yan rushed down to the top of a mountain, landing on the top of a tree. They raised their heads and looked at Feng Zunzhe's group disappear. Xiao Yan slowly clenched his fist. He had finally found Feng Zunzhe. In the future, he would no longer need to bitterly rely on himself. With Xiao Yan's current strength, he was already able to resolve the demon poison spot within his body himself. Although he could not refine it completely in one attempt, there was no need for him to do it in this manner. The Dou Qi contained within the demon poison spot was too strong. Consuming it in one go would not be very beneficial to him. Step-by-step refinement was more suitable. Xiao Yan, where do you plan to go? Lin Yan gradually withdrew his gaze, turned to Xiao Yan, and asked with a smile. Where is the pill tower located? Xiao Yan dryly coughed. His eyes swept all around him as he asked with some embarrassment. He knew that the pill tower was situated in the middle of the central plains, but he was unaware of its exact location. Lin Yan rolled his eyes when he heard this. The name of the pill tower was something that everyone in the central plains was aware of. It was unexpected that Xiao Yan had actually asked such a question. The location where the pill tower is situated is called Pill City. That place has the highest concentration of alchemists on the entire continent. The area within a 500-kilometer radius of Pill City is the territory of the Pill Tower faction. It is also called the Pill Region. There is still quite a long journey from this place until the Pill City. Even by using the wormhole, it is likely that we will need a month or so. Lin Yan spread his hand as he explained. In that case, you will lead the way. Let's find a city with a wormhole first. After that, we will hurry to the Pill City. Xiao Yan laughed. It was indeed a lot more convenient for someone who knew the way to lead. It would save him the trouble of randomly roaming around like a headless housefly. Although there was still some time until the pill gathering began, he still needed to find the little fairy doctor and Ziyan before then. Yes. Lin Yan nodded as he said, you are planning on participating in the pill gathering of the pill tower, right? Coincidentally, Lu Qing's clan is also located in that region. Lu Qing. Xiao Yan's face revealed a smile when he heard this familiar name. He also possessed quite a good impression of this forthright fellow. That fellow also misses you greatly and frequently speaks about you. However, he is now the clan's head and possesses a great status. Nevertheless, he is frequently being suppressed by those old fellows in his clan, causing him to feel out of sorts. Lin Yan laughed. If it is along the way, we can go and take a look at this fellow. Xiao Yan laughed. He similarly missed those friends he had made at the inner academy back then. Lin Yan nodded. His back trembled and a pair of Dou Qi wings were extended. His wings were flapped immediately, and he transformed into a ray of light that flew into the distance. Xiao Yan stepped into the empty air and followed close behind him. This was a mysterious world. Endless clouds lingered over the distant sky, giving it an appearance of paradise. Moreover, the energy of this place was also exceptionally dense. The effect of training in this place would likely be many times better than other places. This place was filled with many steep mountain peaks. Occasionally, a couple rays of light would flash through the sky. The vague powerful auras that seeped out of the peaks would likely have attracted quite a number of eyes if it was somewhere else. An extremely steep mountain peak was located under the clouds and fog. The mountain peaks were just like enormous swords that pierced into the clouds. If one was to raise one's head and took a look, one would find that it was difficult to see the peak within the lingering clouds and fog. The figure was wearing green clothes. It was not one filled with splendor, but emitted an elegance that caused one to be relaxed. The figure's delicate, small waist was being gently restrained by a pale purple cloth belt that outlined the moving curves of that already delicate waist. If one were to shift one's gaze upwards, one would find a pretty face with a quiet temperament that did not lose to Feng Qing air. A pair of pretty eyes revealed a wisp of ethereal aura. At a glance, it appeared as though any great fury within one's heart would weaken when looking at this pair of quiet and indifferent eyes. Such a lady appeared just like a fairy or an uncontaminated clear lotus in the mundane world. Her entire body emitted a kind of misty, rare feeling that caused one to only be able to observe from a distance without being able to fondle. A lady like this, who seemed to be born from the spiritual aura of nature, would likely result in some men feeling ashamed when standing in front of her. The surrounding natural energy lingered beside this girl, appearing like the stars supporting the moon. The energy entered her body as she desired. This quiet training continued for nearly an hour or so before the lady's intelligent, beautiful eyes, that had been shut, were slowly opened. Following the opening of her eyes, a wisp of golden-colored flame immediately flashed through them. An unusual pressure also spread out along with the appearance of this golden-colored flame. Under such an unusual pressure, even the surrounding natural energy had become a little sluggish. It even wiggled slightly. The lady stood up in an elegant manner. Her tall figure appeared exceptionally enchanting. She turned her head slightly, glanced behind her, and slightly grinned. She said, "Old Ling, show yourself." That instantaneous smile possessed a kind of great beauty. Even the surrounding nature had become a little brighter because of it. The lady was non-committal to this little bootlicking. Her hand randomly lifted some black hair that had landed on her forehead as she asked, "Is there a matter for Old Ling to come here?" The old me would not dare to come and interrupt young Mrs. training if there was nothing. The figure raised his head, revealing an old face. It was Ling Ying, who had once protected Xiao Yan back then. As for this ethereal lady in front, who else could it be other than Sun Er, whom Xiao Yan thought of every day? "I am not interested in whatever happens in the clan." Sun Er randomly spoke. She raised her hand and the lingering fog gathered at her palm. Immediately, it transformed into the delicate and handsome face of a man. A rare, warm smile was revealed on her beautiful face when she looked at this face. Ling Ying also laughed when he heard this. He teasingly said, "I think that young miss will definitely be interested in what I have to say." Sun Er's eyes paused on the man's face agglomerated from fog. Her pretty eyes glanced at Ling Ying when she heard his words. She then smiled and said, "Hopefully, speak." Ling Ying coughed softly and slowly said, "According to the lastest news that I have obtained, a young man called Xiao Yan has appeared in the northern regions of the Central Plains." Puff. The fog, which had gathered into a person's face, scattered. The tall, curvy figure seemed to have gently trembled at this moment. A short while later, she inhaled a gentle breath of somewhat icy cold air and softly asked, "Are you certain?" "From what I think, there is a good chance that it is him," Ling Ying smiled as he replied. The lady suddenly turned around. Her elegant lovely appearance currently contained a rare joy. She descended from the mountain peak. Her footsteps were determined and were without the slightest hesitation. "Give the order that I am leaving the Gu realm." Two rays of light shot over from the distant sky. The wind that had been created from the fast speed whistled continuously through the air. We are now on the boundary of the northern region. However, if we simply rely on our own flying, it is likely that we will need 2 to 3 months in order to reach the Pill region. However, we are quite lucky. There is a city called Sky Maple City not far from this place. There is coincidentally a wormhole that leads to the middle of the Central Plains there. If we were to take that route, we will be able to save over half the time. Lin Yan, who was leading at the front, suddenly turned his head and spoke to Xiao Yan. Two rays of light flashed through the sky. Xiao Yan nodded upon hearing this. All he wanted was to arrive in the Pill region as soon as possible. If he were to estimate the time, he had been separated from the little fairy doctors group for half a year. He wondered just how they were faring. However, you should hide your appearance as much as possible. After the matter with the Lightning Mountain, your current reputation is not inferior to that of Feng Qing'er. Moreover, you possess that so-called ancient phoenix essence blood in your body. I'm afraid that Feng Qing'er will not give up. She will quietly search for you. It is better for you to cover your appearance a little. Lin Yan reminded. Xiao Yan took the skin-like item from his storage ring and placed it over his face. This thing might be useless against a sharp-eyed expert, but it was an extremely convenient way to hide one's appearance. Lin Yan smiled and nodded when he saw Xiao Yan once again transforming into the ordinary appearance that Lin Yan saw when they had been reunited. After which, he turned around and looked in front of him. The faint outline of an enormous city appeared on the edge of their sight. Let's go. We are arriving. Speed up. Lin Yan waved his hand. After which, he suddenly increased his speed and rushed toward the distant city. Xiao Yan followed close behind him. As the saying went, a horse would die from galloping if one followed the sight of a mountain and ran. Although they were able to vaguely see the outline of the city, Lin Yan still had to fly for nearly 20 minutes or so with his speed before that enormous city gradually appeared in front of their eyes. The both of them descended from the sky and successfully entered this city called Sky Maple City. Xiao Yan did not hurry toward the wormhole after entering the city. Instead, made his way to the largest auction house in the city. After which, he spent quite a great amount of money and purchased 3 types of beast flames. Lin Yan was also quite surprised that Xiao Yan was collecting such beast flames. However, seeing that Xiao Yan did not give an explanation, he chose not to inquire. Only after Xiao Yan had gathered all the things that he needed did Lin Yan lead Xiao Yan to the center of Sky Maple City. Xiao Yan stood in the spacious open ground at the center of Sky Maple City. He looked at the 1,000-foot-tall dark black wormhole and involuntarily inhaled a breath of cold air. It was likely that one could only find such a spectacular item in the Central Plains. The wormhole of Sky Maple City is created by 2 elite Dou zoons together. It is extremely stable and not a single spatial storm has appeared after so many years of use. Thus, the human traffic within Sky Maple City was at a level that no other city within 500 kilometers could compare with it. Lin Yan smiled and spoke when he saw Xiao Yan's shocked manner. 2 Dou zoons, no wonder, Xiao Yan came to a sudden understanding after hearing this. The number of elite Dou zoons whom he had seen during these years could be counted with one hand. They were basically the few that Xiao Yan had seen at the Lightning Mountain a couple of days ago. In the past, such a strength was really unattainable from his perspective. Let's go. It is already quite late. If we delay any longer, the wormhole will be closed for the day. Lin Yan waved his hand and swiftly climbed the stairs. After paying 2 shares of the expensive toll to the guards in front of the wormhole, the 2 of them successfully entered the wormhole. Lin Yan took out a palm-sized crude, small boat before entering the wormhole. Xiao Yan had seen this thing. A space boat. It was a transport one could use to fly through a wormhole. When Xiao Yan's group had arrived in the Central Plains back then, they had also rode on this small thing. However, it was obvious that the quality of this boat belonging to Lin Yan was not very good. It looked exceptionally simple. The price of a space boat is extremely expensive. This thing might appear simple and crude, but it cost me a total over 2 million gold coins in order to get my hands on it. I have risked my life and relied on killing 2 rank 6 magical beasts in order to obtain the 2 million gold coins. Lin Yan's face turned a little red when he saw Xiao Yan's eyes, and he immediately defended himself. However, it is fortunate that I managed to luckily enter a cave after having killed those 2 rank 6 magical beasts. The agility Dou technique I am practicing was obtained from that place. It might look ugly when it is being used, but this agility skill is at the D-class middle level. Lin Yan became a little enraptured when he spoke until the end. It seemed that he had gained quite a lot from his unique encounter. What is this agility Dou technique called? Xiao Yan was somewhat curious. He had seen Lin Yan's agility technique. Although it appeared ugly, it was quite practical. Bat duck dodging fire steps. Lin Yan rubbed his head and spoke with some embarrassment. The name of this agility Dou technique lacked ornamental value, just like the way it was used. It is quite a good agility Dou technique. With this agility Dou technique, it is likely that even some 6-star Dou Huangs will not be able to harm you. Xiao Yan looked at the queue in front, nodded, and softly replies. This bat duck dodging fire steps also have a matching Qi method known as fire bat method. However, it is only at the D-class low level. I am able to reach this strength during these years all thanks to this fire bat method. Lin Yan moved closer to Xiao Yan and proudly laughed. I am about to enter the pill region and should also prepare some items as soon as possible. It is best that I practice the flame creation skill that I have obtained. Otherwise, the remaining life-transforming flame would only support my usage of the extermination fire lotus once. This is not enough, Xiao Yan thought in his heart. Although he had already advanced to the Dou Zone class, the only powerful trump card he had that could kill an old demon like Fei Tian was this extermination fire lotus. Hence, he needed to prepare this thing beforehand. The Pill region was situated in the middle of the Central Plains region. Other than the Pill Tower, there were many powerful factions that were not weaker than the Wind Lightning Pavilion there. If he wanted to survive in that place, he would find it difficult to navigate it should he not possess some trump cards. While Xiao Yan was deep in thought, the queue had reached their turn. The two of them strode forward and entered the enormous wormhole. A spatial fluctuation appeared and the two of them disappeared into it. The interior of the dark black spatial tunnel had 2 spatial walls that had been created from spatial strength on both sides. If one's gaze were to pass through the silver-white wall, one would be able to see an endless emptiness beyond. This kind of darkness appeared to be endless, causing one to feel a chill within one's heart. We will require at least a month's time in order to pass through this wormhole. You should rest first. It is fine if I control this boat. Lin Yan turned his head and spoke to Xiao Yan after the space boat had gotten on the right track. Xiao Yan did not reject Lin Yan's offer when he heard this. He smiled and nodded. Coincidentally, he required this month's time in order to practice the flame creation skill. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind and a crimson scroll immediately appeared. There was a heat being vaguely emitted from it. This was naturally the flame creation skill Xiao Yan had obtained from the Demon Flame Valley back then. Xiao Yan's hand slowly opened the scroll. His spiritual strength also entered it. A large amount of information immediately surged into his mind. This information was naturally the true training method of this flame creation skill. While Xiao Yan had shut his eyes and studied the flame creation skill Dou technique, the space boat flew swiftly under Lin Yan's control, flying toward the extremely distant end of the space tunnel. The exit led to the middle of the Central Plains, a region which possessed an even greater attraction than the northern region.